Kris Kremers and Lisanne Froon were two Dutch students who disappeared on the 1st of April in the year of 2014 while hiking the El Pianista trail in Panama. After an extensive search, portions of their bodies were found a few months later. Their cause of death could not be determined definitively. However, Dutch authorities, working with forensic and search and rescue investigators, initially thought it was likely that the two students had accidentally fallen from a cliff after becoming lost. Foul play is also not ruled out in this case, and is considered by some as a much more likely explanation to why the girls had disappeared. The case of these two young Dutch students have generated a massive interest online. There is much speculation about their final days. Panamanian authorities came under fire for allegedly mishandling the disappearance and aftermath. Further investigation into the case in 2017 raised questions about the initial investigation, as well as a possible link to murders in the area. Until this day, there is still no official cause of death ruled in this case. Kris was 21 and Lisanne was 22 years of age at the time of their disappearance. Both of them had grown up in Amersfoort, a city within the Utrecht province of the Netherlands. Kris Kremers was described as an open, creative, and responsible individual, while Lisanne Froon was described as an aspiring, optimistic, intelligent, and a passionate volleyball player. Leading up to the events in Panama, Kris had just completed her studies in cultural social education, and Lisanne had graduated with a degree in applied psychology. Only a few weeks prior to leaving for Panama, Lisanne and Kris had moved into a dorm room together. Both girls were working in the same cafe. For 6 months, they had been saving up their money in order to go to Panama together on a special 6-week vacation. They were hoping to learn Spanish and volunteer with children. The girls had arrived in Panama on the 15th of March. They toured the country for 2 weeks before arriving in Phuket on the 29th of March to live with a local family for a month while volunteering with children. After arriving in the area, the girls were supposed to start volunteering at a local children's daycare on Monday, the 31st of March. However, upon arrival, they were quickly informed they could not start work that week as planned. The head of the daycare center had an unforeseen emergency that needed attending to in the nearby city of David. As a result, she was unable to properly guide and train the two girls for their volunteer work that week. Kris and Lisanne were eventually informed of this change of plan at around 7 p.m. in the evening on the 31st of March. This was of great disappointment, and as a result, they set out to plan other activities to fill their time and newfound freedom. One of these plans included a hike to the nearby Pianista trail, amongst others. The two girls wrote on Facebook that they intended to walk around Phuket, and it was reported that they also had been seen having brunch with two young Dutch men as well. The girls had researched the El Pianista trail and decided to undertake the hike on the 1st of April. At around 11 a.m. on that day, which was also a Monday, the girls went hiking the El Pianista trail, which was not far from the city of Phuket, where the two were staying. We know for a fact that the girls undertook the path up to the summit and arrived successfully at the top at approximately 1 p.m. from the timestamps on Lisanne's recovered camera. More on this a little bit later. We also know that the girls then headed down the other side of the summit, leaving the Pianista trail behind, and headed down the local native path on the other side of the Continental Divide. Why exactly they decided to push forward on this trek instead of coming back home is not really certain. The path after the divide is still one path, much like the Pianista itself. In fact, some hikers have reported that the local trail is actually easier to traverse than the Pianista as it's less inclined, but later on down the track, it can get more confusing to navigate. Some sources say that the two of them had taken a dog with them that belonged to the owners of the Il Pianista restaurant, which is adjacent to the beginning of the trail. However, according to Wikipedia, this has not been confirmed. Some sources also claim that the owner of the Il Pianista restaurant became alarmed when their dog had returned home that night without Kris and Lisanne. At the same time, the girls' parents had stopped receiving text messages, which they had been receiving on a daily basis from the two girls. The following day, on April 2nd, the girls missed an appointment with a local guide. This same guide had obtained the keys to the girls' room and found out that they hadn't spent the night there. Soon after, this same guide had reported the girls missing to the local authorities. A few days later, the parents of the two girls had arrived in Panama along with police, dog units, and detectives from the Netherlands to conduct a full-scale search of the forests for 10 days in total. The parents eventually offered a $30,000 reward for any information leading to the whereabouts of the missing girls. 10 weeks later, on the 11th of June, a local woman turned in Lisanne's blue backpack, which she reported finding by the Changuinola River near her village of Alto Romero in the Bocas del Toro province. The backpack contained 2 pairs of sunglasses, $83 in cash, Lisanne's passport, a water bottle, Lisanne's camera, 2 bras, and the woman's phones, apparently in working conditions. The girls' phones showed that around 6 hours after the beginning of their hike, someone had dialed 112, which is the international emergency number in use in the Netherlands, and later on 911, which is the emergency number in Panama. The first distress call attempt was made by Kris Kremers' iPhone at 4:39 p.m., and shortly after that, another attempt was made by Lisanne Froon's Samsung Galaxy phone at 4:51 p.m., but none of the calls got through due to lack of reception in the area. None of the subsequent call attempts ever managed to go through as well. On the 4th of April, Lisanne's phone battery had died after 5 a.m., and the phone was never used again. Kris's iPhone would not make any more calls either, but was intermittently turned on to search for any reception. Between the 5th and the 11th of April, the iPhone was turned on multiple times, but without ever entering the correct PIN code again. We are uncertain whether or not an incorrect PIN code was entered or a PIN code was not entered to begin with. The only thing that we know is that the phone has not been successfully unlocked, potentially indicating that Kris Kremers was either dead or was incapable of accessing her phone. On the 11th of April, the phone was turned on at 10:51 a.m. and was turned off for the last time at 11:56 a.m. Lisanne's Canon camera contained photos from the 1st of April suggesting that the two women had taken a trail at the overlook of the Continental Divide and wandered into some wilderness hours before their first attempt at making emergency calls, but with no signs of anything unusual. However, 8 days into their disappearance on the 8th of April, 90 flash photos were taken between 1 and 4 a.m. in the morning, apparently deep in the jungle and in near complete darkness. A few photos show that they were possibly near a river or a ravine. Some show a twig with plastic bags on top of a rock. Another shows what looks like a backpack strap and a mirror on another rock. And another picture shows the back of Kris Kremers' head. After the backpack was discovered, new searches began along the Culebra River. Kris's denim shorts were found atop of a rock on the opposite bank of the tributary, a few kilometers away from where Lisanne's backpack had been found. Initially, a rumor claimed that the shorts were found zipped and neatly folded, but pictures of the shorts published in 2021 disproved this information. 2 months later, closer to where the backpack was discovered, on the 19th of June, a pelvis and a boot with a foot inside were found behind the tree near the Chegunola River. The bones were discovered a 14-hour hike north past 2 rivers from where the girls were originally known to be. We know this because they had taken a picture there. It was their last normal daytime picture from April 1st, picture number 508. DNA testing confirmed that these bones belonged to the 2 girls. Lisanne's bones still had some skin attached to them, but Kris's bones appeared to have been bleached. A Panamanian forensic anthropologist later claimed that under magnification, there are no discernible scratches of any kind on the bones, neither of natural nor cultural origin. There are no marks on the bones at all, they said. Oddly, a team of 6 locals, including the same exact guide who reported the girls missing, his name is Feliciano, were the team that found these remains. The area had previously been searched by rescue teams, but the rescue teams were not able to find these bones. This same team also managed to find more small bone fragments a month later on the 30th of July. A week after that, on August 6th, local villagers managed to find more of the girls' remains along the Culebra River, 2 bones of a lower leg which belonged to Lisanne, and some other small bone that had a piece of skin on it. A team of forensic specialists concluded that the most probable cause of the death of the 2 girls was that they had slipped and fell from a cliff. Cliffs in that area are 30 to 40 meters high, and water currents are also strong at the bottom of the cliffs, so they theorized that these currents made it difficult to find any further human remains. However, this still leaves many questions unanswered. If the girls simply fell off a cliff, why weren't more of their remains found? Why were the strange night photos taken in the first place? Why didn't the girls leave a goodbye message or use the camera to document a clearer picture of what had happened? Why didn't the search teams find more traces of the girls when they spent so many days and nights out looking for them? And why didn't the locals or search teams come across them or their cries for help in the subsequent hours or days following this accident? To listen to the full discussion regarding the 2 Dutch students' disappearance, please find our podcast YouTube channel or listen to this podcast on any of your favorite podcast applications. Once more, this podcast is called Wednesday Night Mysteries. You could either find us on our YouTube channel or listen to us on your favorite podcast applications. Thank you for listening.